Leetcode problem number 6, a medium level problem called Zig Zag conversion. Here you have a string as an input as well as an integer with variable name num_rows, and what you're creating is a zigzag pattern with the text, and then using top to bottom, left to right, you are then concatenating each row and then concatenating each of the rows together to formulate a new string. Where the initial string here was PayPal is hiring, now it becomes this gobbledygook. And just note the difference, it's sort of you're creating a matrix here, and you're inputting characters vertically for the zig, and then you're only placing characters diagonally in decreasing order down to the 0 index. So I would have 0 row 0 1 2 3. It fills up this vertically, and then it's going to back step twice for those zags. Now let's go over my problem. ON time complexity linear. Got to jump over to VS Code. So here res is a array of arrays, empty, just in the length of num rows, because I'm just creating one list, Python list in this case, for each row that will need to be concatenated, outlined by num rows here as the input. L here is just the length of S. This line of code is just checking to make sure that I don't just need to return S in its original form, because either the number of rows is so great that it's going to return the same string because the length of S is too short, or if you have num rows that only equals 1, then no matter what, the same string is going to be returned. So that's the reasoning for this. If both of these are false, then I'm using SP here as a placeholder to store the default number of zag column/rows required. So as long as the num rows is greater than 3, you just take num rows minus 2. Remember, because the first row and the last row don't have any zag numbers, they're only zig numbers. So meaning top to down instead of zagging across. So that's just storing that value for me. And now RC is going to be a counter that counts from 0 to the num rows. And that's going to be what's filling characters vertically. SL is the counter for this spacing for the zag. F is the flag here starting off at true that is going to switch between the vertical placement or the zag placement of the characters. And then X is simply the counter or index value of the string as I'm iterating through it using this while loop. So while X is less than the upper limit, if we're working on a zig or flag is true and your counter has not reached the maximum upper limit, you are adding incrementally those characters and then incrementing both your RC counter and the X forward. Once you reach and fill the first num rows, then it's going to hit this block, reset the counter, set the flag to false, jump back in the while loop, skip over these. Now it's going to go to the no flag and check to see if your counter requires any zags. And so here now it's going to just add that character to the appropriate array in res, increment this counter for the zags downwards, and then increment X. Once this requirement no longer is fulfilled, then it goes to the else. It resets that zag counter using that placeholder value, and then it resets the flag to true. So keep switching back and forth until the string is exhausted and the while loop is closed. Then I'm just doing a nested join for the arrays in res to return that new string. So let's dive through that problem here with the debugger, just so you can get a little bit of a visualization as to how it's stepping through it. And then from there, I will send you on your merry way. So as you can see here, just make note how it's populating things as it goes along. It's populating everything in the correct row. And then now it's going to switch over to the Zag. And notice how our spacing is just 1 because the amount of rows we have is 3, because the num rows minus 2 ends up being how many spacing rows / columns are required. And so what we're going to do now is just append that to the appropriate row. Then increment that downwards, increment x across, and then since that'll now be at the upper limit, it's going to jump down to this else, reset itself, and then reset the flag to start doing a vertical zig placement of characters. And so a few more of these, and then I will send you on your way just so you can get a visualization of how it is stepping through all of it. And then the join of joins is basic. It takes all of these arrays, first concatenates them down to a single string, and then it'll take each one of these separate rows and concatenate it down to a single string and return that. So thank you for joining. Hopefully that was informative for you. Join me next time for more Leetcode solution overviews.